Hi, my name is Celeste Corpening, and today we'll be discussing the flipped classroom. What is a flipped classroom? Well, this diagram will give us a little bit more insight, but the flipped classroom is more than merely switching activities where you're doing your homework in the classroom and you're doing your lectures at home. The flipped classroom offers an expanded curriculum where teachers become facilitators and students take ownership of their education. This module gives a little bit more detailed. Lectures are typically delivered via a web medium, that's videos, demonstrations and tutorials, as well as simulations and games. Now, in-class participation occurs from collaboration of projects, individual and group problem solving, as well as peer-based learning activities. There are two major benefits from the flipped classroom model. One, teachers have more time for one-on-one interactions with students. And two, students are able to master the content that they're studying. However, there is a big misconception about the flipped classroom. People assume because technology is involved that they're trying to eliminate the human interaction. This cannot be further from the truth. They are repurposing class time, not eliminating it. In fact, the in-class experience is vital to the success of the flipped classroom. So if you find yourself under a little pressure when trying to implement the flipped classroom, you're not alone. Institutions are feeling a lot of pressure from all sides, from students, faculty, and academic institutions. Brick and mortar students demand academic institutions increase or enhance their in-person education experience. Instructors are resistant because they have more work to do. They have additional prep time as well as learning new tools and implementing new teaching strategies. Students typically want in-person lectures over video lectures, but they prefer interactive classroom activities over lectures. Now, the accreditation board, they raise concerns regarding the 3 AK outcome criteria being met. For those of you who do not speak Greek, they are referring to effective communication, problem solving, and team functionality. So I've created a resolution chart. I want to say resistance is futile. For the accreditation issues raised, the resolution is problem-based learning, PBL, is at the heart of flipped classrooms. It requires active learning and typically involves collaborative efforts. That's team building skills. So as far as the instructors' concerns or issues, they are resolved with just that, with the results, the increased test scores, the increased GPAs, the parent-teacher satisfaction, the student-parent satisfaction rates. Now, the students' resolution, most of the students' feedback is positive. However, you have an occasional voice of opposition. But I would challenge that person to evaluate whether their resistance is coming from the additional responsibility required of them to be a part of their educational process. Now, some people may prefer to be that passive participant, while others may jump at the chance to take on a more ownership role in their learning process. Moreover, people are always going to resist change. Just because it's change, it's different. Now, this chart explores the different levels of learning, retention, comprehension, application, and to analyze, create, and evaluate. And I will let you go over and look at the traditional versus the flipped classrooms. Typically, the flipped classrooms offer more opportunities for levels of learning to take place. Now, one important thing to note is the last level of learning, that the analyze, evaluate, and create. The traditional classroom sometimes provides this in homework, and it sometimes does not. Now, the flipped classroom, students put projects and presentations together, and this helps them to analyze, to evaluate, and you guessed it, to create. So the question of the day, does flipped classrooms work for all ages and all types of learners? My response would be absolutely. Given the proper given the proper support and resources, a flipped classroom can work for anyone. It encompasses auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learning styles. It's important to note that there are multiple approaches to implementing a flipped classroom. Now, I would be dismissive. I would say it'd probably be more challenging to implement a flipped classroom in a K-5 class just because of their lack of independence at that age. But we have to remember, children are resourceful, they're extremely adaptable, and they would adjust to a new classroom structure. I've seen pre-K students work with iPads, cell phones, and DVD players better than adults. Now, there may be some parent involvement as far as helping with their homework, but that exists now, just in a different form. Overcoming barriers in the flipped classroom. There are things that need to be addressed. We may need to think out of the box to overcome some of the barriers. Distribute iPads to students to increase accessibility. I know there's classrooms now that do it in Rowan County now. EduCause informs us that captions are available for the hearing impaired. It also indicates that ESL students can view videos multiple times. This can also be applicable for the students that have cognitive delays. Personalization can occur for students that are special needs. Students typically come to class better prepared. And this can minimize parent and student frustrations when a parent is unable to help their student with their homework because of whatever the reason is, because of lack of education, because of lack of resources, because of lack of time. It helps to eliminate that. And the last point is that it helps 5K parents. 5K parents are included in the learning process. I can't tell you how many times I hear parents ask their children, "What did you learn in school today?" And the response is nothing, or it's crickets. I specifically asked my daughter, "What did you learn today?" Nothing. "What did you learn today?" Nothing. "What did you learn today?" Nothing, mommy. Zero. So this helps the parent to be a little bit involved so you know what's going on in your child's school and their education process. Now, I chose a case study for Clintondale High School. Principal Greg Green had an aha moment when he was coaching his son's baseball team. That's when he identified the power of the video and the potential for increased educational experience that his students could capture. He took an all-in approach in flipping his entire school. Lessons were recorded, posted online, played at home, while homework was done by day in the classroom. He did have some resistance from the veteran teacher who might have been there for 25 years, who had no idea what a Google Drive was or what a podcast was. So there was a learning curve. But overall, the implementation of his flipped classroom in his school was successful. Some may say that Principal Green was aggressive in flipping the entire school. I say he was desperate for change. If you look at these pie charts, you look at the numbers, before the flipped classroom, 50% of his 9th grade students were failing math, science, and English. After the classroom flip, graduation rates rose to 90%, and college acceptance rates stood at 80%. The numbers do not lie. So the first classroom that I chose to explore as a flipped classroom, I watched a Singapore math tutorial in the United States. I selected this tutorial, one, because the image captured my attention. I recognized the tools that he was using as something that I had saw at my daughter's school when they were teaching the students how to add and subtract. In addition to that, I specifically chose a tutorial that was made in the United States, so I would have something to compare to internationally. The second case study I chose was Nean Secondary School. This school is in Singapore. For those of you who are not familiar, Singapore is a global leader in implementing educational system. They have invested a lot of time and a lot of money to ensure that their educational system is a success. Now, Nghi An School is considered a feature school. It's a school that students, parents, and educators alike want their students to come to. It is a future school because of its use of technology in education, its lesson plans, and that it uses 21st century teaching strategies. Now, one of the biggest things to note is the teachers, the instructors, they have a different outlook on technology. They are trying to get ahead of the game so they can meet the students where they are using the tools that they use. They want to be catalysts for learning for their students, so they're trying to be the best way that they can be experts in technology so that they can relate to the students. They recognize themselves as facilitators. Now, the second classroom that I watched for the flipped classroom also taught about math, the Singapore math. I chose it because it was a tutorial that was made in Singapore, and it was by design. I wanted to witness firsthand how the global leaders in education showcase a tutorial. And I chose the math tutorial so it would be somewhat comparable to the other tutorial that was selected. Now, in comparing the two, the first one was a little bit more static. He didn't use fluctuation in his voice. There was no movement in the video. Whereas the one that was done, the second one that was done in Singapore, he had animation and transitions in his slide, and he actually showed multiple ways to solve the same problem using different tools. And you can see that here. He has a book, a pie chart, and some whiteboard annotations. So he used multiple ways to captivate his audience, where the first flipped classroom did not tutorial. Now, I have not personally utilized or flipped a classroom using video tools. So this is my list, my exploration list. I chose Narrable, Go Animate, and Jing. Narrable is easy to use and is affordable. Jing is easy to use and it's affordable. It is known for its screen capture quality. And also it's important to note that it comes from it's made by a company that's very reliable, so it has sustainability. Also, Jing has open source, so if you have a talent for editing code, you can edit the code to manipulate Jing to work the way you want it. Now, Go Animate, its biggest component is, you guessed it, is animation. So it has a huge amount of animation in its application that you can customize pretty much anything. It's characters, it's widgets. You can create characters that look like yourself. It has a variety of voiceovers. You can record yourself. You can use professional voiceovers, or you can use a text-to-speech option. You can also import media as well into into Go Animate. This is what Narratable looks like. Narratable provides opportunity to produce narrated slides with little effort. Jing makes creating tutorials and complex documentation simple by capturing screenshots and videos on your computer screen. And as you can see here, Jing has the ability to highlight, to annotate, and to emphasize different areas on your screen. Go Animate. This screenshot does Go Animate no justice. Go Animate is an amazing tool that allows the average user to become a great presenter through the use of templates, characters, audio, video, and animation with little to no graphic design experience. So you can have your person giving a massage, you can have them jumping, you can have lip sync applied, you can have your voice applied. It can be as simple as you want it or as complex as you want it. Go Animate is worth checking out. So this next slide consists of my references. I have several references, and these are my image references. I hope that you've learned something from this video. I look forward to your feedback. Thank you.